The GOP holds a presidential debate, and the winner is... Who would be the... I'm Alan Barton. Stand by for the front page. Joining me from Washington, D.C. is David Freddoso, online opinion editor for the Washington Examiner. David, pleasure to have you with us. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Clearly, Romney was the front runner going into the debate, but I thought he did better earlier in the day when he was handling those hecklers at that event. How do you think he did in terms of the overall scheme here? Did he come out unscathed? And why do you think other candidates didn't really go after him more?
I think unscathed is not a bad way to put it at all. He didn't make any great strides. I don't think he impressed anyone or won anyone over who wasn't already won over. But he had a debate that didn't contain any huge gaffes and isn't going to hurt him. You know, there weren't as many barbs directed at him as you might expect, in part because he's not expected to do that well in the straw poll. And right now, you know, for example, Tim Pawlenty sees Michelle Bachmann as the person he has to beat to do well there. The two of them, it's basically all or nothing in Iowa. It makes or breaks them, as opposed to Romney, who may be sort of considered a national frontrunner, but only weakly so, and is not going to be a big player in Iowa, most likely.
Well, as you mentioned, Pawlenty and Bachmann, they were going at each other and fed on by Chris Wallace. Pawlenty said Bachmann has a negligible record in Congress, and then Bachmann, in return, said this. Let's take a listen.
Governor, when you were governor in Minnesota, you implemented cap and trade in our state, and you praised the unconstitutional individual mandate, and you called for requiring all people in our state to purchase health insurance that government would mandate. Third, you said the era of small government was over. That sounds a lot more like Barack Obama, if you ask me. During my time in...
Whoa. And you notice that Pawlenty starts writing something? When he started writing something, you know, like, is he actually writing anything, or is he just going like, let me write something down to come back at you with that? Who do you think came out in terms of that spat?
That's what we call Minnesota mean in today's Washington Examiner, actually. You definitely, there is a history between the two of them, because Bachmann was someone who opposed a lot of Pawlenty's policies. She did misrepresent some of the things as far as the individual mandate in healthcare goes, but on the cap and trade thing, that is true. You know, and a few other things about Pawlenty's record that got brought up: the health impact fee for really cigarette tax hike that he put into effect. You know, those two clearly, like I said, they view Iowa as a make-or-break proposition, and it's between the two of them, it's a zero-sum game. So the one gains at the other's expense, and that's why I don't think it should. A lot of people seem a bit surprised Pawlenty didn't go after Romney more, but Bachmann's the one that he really is competing with for votes right now.
All right, let's bring in our panelists, Yaron Brook, president of the Ayn Rand Center for Individual Rights, and Terry Jones, associate editor for Investors Business Daily. All right, Yaron, Newt Gingrich drew a bunch of applause when he went after Chris Wallace for playing gotcha games on the media, but he also got applause for this. Let's take a look.
Chairman Bernanke deal with hundreds of billions of dollars, and to some estimates are as much as $16 trillion, in secret, is profoundly against a free society. The Fed should be totally audited. It should be out in public. Their decision documents from 08, 07, and 08, and 09 should be public. We should know who they bailed out and why they bailed them out and who they didn't bail out. And the Fed is the primary villain in failing to have a sound money policy.
Congressman Paul.
You know, we're in weird times when people talk about the Fed, you get applause lines. Like, the Fed should be audited. Yes! Go! Like, the wave goes to the audience, like, let's audit the Fed. Okay,
remember who the audience was. There's a huge Ron Paul constituency there, and that's who was cheering this. This is not a line that is going to generate that much applause in general Republican circles. This is a Ron Paul line. Ron Paul called for auditing the Fed 2 years ago. It's been making the rounds, and Gingrich is just leveraging off of that and benefited from it. of course, whether it's
on
true
the merits, what do you think, beyond the theater of it?
I mean, this is my view. Yes, I mean, sure, let's find out who they bailed out and who they didn't. And then what? What are we going to do? Are we really going to do anything about it? So, for example, we know today, because a lot of information has already come out, about all these massive corporations and business entities that they bailed out that had nothing to do with banking. Has anybody done anything about it? Does anything change? Does the politics change? Is anybody even questioning the existence of the Fed and the whole policies because of it? So yeah, information is good, but the fundamental here is that the Fed, you can't run the Fed well. There's no right way, in my view, to run the Fed. The Fed is an entity that shouldn't exist. It shouldn't be a function of government to dictate monetary policy and to dictate what money is and what money isn't. Markets can handle that much better than the Fed. Information is good, but it's what you do with that information. And I don't see any willingness in Washington or in the public to really challenge fundamentally the nature of the Fed and what it actually does.
All right, Terry, bringing you in. Obviously, this is all about the weekend's Ames Straw Poll, which is seen as sort of the first significant test of a presidential candidate's draw. Now, some GOP insiders fear that in the event of bad weather, only Ron Paul supporters will show up, which will propel him to a win. And Ron Paul, you know, he's a controversial figure, and you know, I don't want to offer my opinion of how he came off in that debate. You know, talking about 1953 Iran, I don't know what he was talking about. But what do you think a Ron Paul win would do? Would it just sort of diminish the entire playing field of contenders, or does it make people just go like Iowa, the straw poll? Let's get to 2012.
I think it's more the latter. I mean, everybody knows that the Iowa caucus and all the caucus states are about organization and enthusiasm of your supporters. And Ron Paul, quite honestly, has very enthusiastic supporters. And rain or shine, they're going to show up and they're going to vote for Ron Paul. And already, you know, an overnight online poll showed him winning the debate 44% to 16%, I think, for the number 2. I don't think anybody believes that he won the debate by such a lopsided factor. So, you know, it's quite possible that he'll win the Iowa caucuses, and but I think the real battle is does Romney get damaged in this process, and does
who wins between Pawlenty and Bachmann? That's really
Pawlenty. I think has to beat Bachmann because Iowa was a state that looked like it was crafted just for his candidacy 2 months ago before she entered. Yeah. And if he can't beat her there, he can't beat her anywhere.
Going back to you, David, a lot of people said that the most important person in the debate was the person who wasn't there, Texas Governor Rick Perry, who's going to be announcing, as we're taping today, he's announcing tomorrow. What would you say are Governor Perry's strengths and vulnerabilities as he heads into the race?
Well, Governor Perry, for one thing, I think he's making a mistake by announcing tomorrow from South Carolina. That sends a real signal to Iowans that, you know, it might well mean that he's not going to compete there, which I think would be a mistake for him because he's the kind of, you know, social, fiscal, conservative fusion candidate who could compete in both places. As far as his strengths and weaknesses, he's been known to say a few wacky things to appeal to the you know, the rightward end of the spectrum in his party. Talking about secession, for example, that keeps coming up. But, you know, all in all, he seems like the ideal candidate on paper in most ways. He would unite the party that way. I think a lot of people are disappointed with the current field, and he's the guy who walks in kind of like Fred Thompson in 2008 and looks like the right guy. The question is he going to walk in the way Fred Thompson walked in 2008, or is he going to be the guy?
All right, good question. Thank you, David Freddoso. You can find more of David's work at WashingtonExaminer.com. And viewers, add your voice to the mix. Who do you think won the GOP presidential debate and why? And what did you think of those questions? We didn't talk about that. I didn't think much of those questions. Click the comment button below. Join in on the discussion. For David Freddoso, Yaron Brook, Terry Jones, I'm Alan Barton. You've been watching Front Page.